With the first pick,
Thunderstruck! Thunderstruck! Yeah, Thunderstruck!
Welcome into the Fantasy Rant podcast presented by Stadium Rant. I am Dan Baker, accompanied by Evan Gooding, Mason Beck, and Lee Cook. Today we're going to be talking about fantasy playoff matchups, and of course we're going to play the Wheel of Misfortune. We took Thanksgiving off, but we're back at it again. Evan, you want to take it from here for the Week 11 Wheel of Misfortune, how that played out?
Yeah, the Week 11, we were missing Mason, so it's just the three of us here, me, Dan, and Lee. And I guess we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. So that's on to you, Dan. Dan finished with 37.16 points. His QBs were Dak Prescott, who pretty much put up the most points on his team as a quarterback should. Travis Etienne.
That is the worst way you go.
Yeah, he did have it. Yeah, not typical Dak performance. Not typical Etienne performance either, which you had. And Tyler Boyd was kind of a bust, like many probably predicted, but he's not like the best player to have in there. And then Evan Ingram,
even filling for Higgins.
I was expecting Evan Ingram to have a better game too. I was expecting you to be more of a competitor this week. All of us really struggled though, to be honest. Like I put up 42.3 points. Josh Allen pretty much was my team at 23.5 points, and then Devon Achane, everything. I don't even want to talk about that 1.5, but very frustrating. I trusted him in lineups too that week, so very frustrating week 11 for Evan. And then wide receiver, I had Zay Flowers putting up a modest 8 points and not great. And then Trey McBride put up a great showing too. So if A-Chain was there, I would have had Lee because he only beat me by 4 points. And he had 46.54 points he finished with. QB was Joe Burrow. Had a terrible game, 8.74. You also had to deal with that injury as well. So I guess if both of us didn't have to deal with injuries, it would have been more of a shootout. But Brian Robinson carried your team, 20.2 points. That's a fantastic week from him. Devonta Smith, also fantastic week, 15.9. I love that for my fantasy team personally, but not for the wheel. And then, Pat Firemouth held it down for you with a 1.7. Terrible. But, all in all, shitty week for all of us, but we're moving on.
We'll take the dub.
We are. Right. It was a solid one. Brian Robinson, I think, had the Giants that week. So can't go wrong there.
No.
Oh, didn't you do that game, Lee?
I did. It was a very sad experience, specifically the ride home. But we're looking forward to 2024 and what we can do in this draft. Moving on past this season.
That's right. That's right. I'm hoping that you guys get Brock Bowers. I know that you guys will have a top 10 pick most likely. So if you guys get Brock Bowers on that offense, man, it's going to be unreal what Eric Bieniemy can do with that guy. But yeah, let's kick it off into the Wheel of Misfortune for Week 13. We're going to start off with the quarterbacks, and Lee's got his rankings for the QBs here.
Yeah, so I'll run through these pretty quick. I like Trevor Lawrence at number one. He's really heated up the last 2 weeks. Cincinnati seems to have given up on the season. My only fear there is that it's a blowout and they're running the ball a lot in the second half. But I like Lawrence to have another big week. Give me Brock Purdy in the revenge game at Philly. Their pass defense has been susceptible. Josh Allen just had a huge game against them. Give me Brock Purdy at 2. I'm going to take Sam Howell at 3. I see that being a lot of garbage time. Miami's going to put up so many points on the Washington defense that Howell may throw it 70 times in this game. That's where I really had a little struggle on the next one, but I'm going to go Jared Goff against New Orleans. He's been up and down, but I like him to have a good week against New Orleans, especially with all their pass catchers down. Kyler Murray against Pittsburgh. Kyler hasn't looked great, but again, the threat of his legs, he's always got that floor for you. And then I finished up with Jordan Love against Kansas City. Kansas City's defense has been very good all season, and Jordan Love, he's been playing better as of late. I just don't trust him against the KC defense.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to your rankings. I got a few things flipped here. I got Brock Purdy at number 1 just because I think like you touched on, that Bengals against Jacksonville could get out of hand, where I think the San Francisco and Philly's going to stay competitive. I think that's going to keep Brock Purdy throwing, and Philly's been the second worst QB, or like the second easiest matchup for QBs over the last 8 weeks, first over the course of the year. Um, really, I do think Kyler Murray's been playing pretty solid, adding a solid floor with his legs, like you touched on. But he does have a tough matchup. I got him right now at third, and that's only because Pittsburgh's allowing the second fewest points over the last 8 weeks. Sam Howell, easily I could see him as the number 3 guy here. Those guys could be pretty interchangeable. But since Miami's gotten Jalen Ramsey back the last 5 weeks, with Jalen Ramsey back, they have allowed the 4th fewest points to QBs. And then I got Goff and Love to round it out here.
Yeah, mine was a little different. I definitely got a little bit more faith in Kyler's legs. I had him at second. T-Law was taking it. He was first off for me. Then Purdy. Then I had Love, Goff, and I'm sorry, Lee, but Howell was my caboose here this week. I mean, Love has been stepping it up too. I know Dan is a Love hater right now, but I think that he's fighting for his job, and I think he's doing pretty well at it.
Yeah, Jordan Love must have seen our texts because he's been balling out for the last 2 weeks since I called him out. He wasn't putting up good numbers. He was 36 out of 38 qualifying quarterbacks in completion percentage. Didn't have a great yards per attempt. But literally since I said those words, he's like, all right, screw you, Dan. I'm blowing up.
I mean, honestly, I think Love's going to have a good week. He's been playing pretty solid again the past couple of weeks. I think, obviously KC's a tough matchup for him, but I think this is going to be a week where Jordan Love actually shows that he can beat these tough teams and, really build this momentum that they're hoping to carry on a postseason run. I do think he is going to have a good game. I'd probably put him at number 4 on this list, move Howell to like number 6 and Goff 5, which sucks because I have Josh Allen on bye this week, so I have to start Sam Howell in one of my leagues. But, and then Purdy and Lawrence are
coming from.
Leading the league in passing right now.
I was going to say, leading the league in passing, number 4 quarterback on the season. And that's in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues. So I don't know where all this hate's coming from. He's had 18, 20, 23, 18, 30 points in the last 5 weeks. He's been solid. And Miami, like Lee said, is going to score points. I agree that I would expect Howell to throw at least 40 passes in this game. So it'll be interesting. So, though, let's spin this wheel, see what we land on. We got Lee up first since he caught the dub. And I'm going to get the steal this week. So beware, boys.
Pass.
Love.
He's taking his pass.
Easy pass. Oh, yeah. Just to remind everybody at home, too, it's been a couple of weeks. So for the Wheel of Misfortune, we each get 2 passes over the course of 4 rounds. The player who came in last week gets a steal, but they have to make the decision whether they are going to steal or not in that round. So when the round is over, if they decide not to steal a player, then we're going to move on. And the format is full PPR and 4-point per passing touchdown. All right. So on to Evan. Evan, let's see who you get.
All right. Oh, Goff. Not happy with Goff. I'm gonna pass. It's a tough matchup against Maryland.
Evan scoffs at Goff. Let's see who I get up next.
Oh,
fantastic! I am absolutely happy with this. I got Trevor Lawrence going up against Cincinnati. In the last 2 weeks, Trevor Lawrence has put up 32.18 points and 25.56 points. Happy to have him on my team this week. On to Mason.
Oh
boy!
Brock
Purdy at Philly.
Week, Brock Purdy's coming revenge game. They hurt him last year. Coming back, and we're gonna have a nice high flying offense game. We're gonna shut the birds down, get a little closer to that number 1 seed. So I'm obviously taking him.
We'll keep the comment off of the airways, but if you're on YouTube, you can take a look and see what one of our listeners got to say about Brock Purdy. I almost said it.
They do agree with you. They seem to agree with you, though. I think that's in that direction.
Yes, they're in. They're in. All right, kicking back to Lee. He is stuck with his pick, and it is Jordan Love again. The wheel has spoken, and you get Jordan Love.
Oh, that's a tough place to skip there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, me too.
And you got Jared Goff. That is too funny. The wheel has spoken, and you guys are stuck with your original pick. All right, on to running backs. Evan is going to be first up for the running backs here, and Evan is also going to be ranking them right now.
Yes. So number one I had for the running backs is Ramondre Stevenson. As a Chargers fan, I am well aware that we cannot stop the run and have not been able to stop the run for years. So I expect Ramondre to eat here. Next up, I have Kyren Williams, who is just an absolute monster, and he's just a volume workhorse. And so I expect him. It's a tough matchup, but I still expect him to do really well. Then I have Isaiah Pacheco, decent matchup. And he had a great week last week. I expect him to try to roll with some of this momentum. Then Tony Pollard. This one was tough. Tony Pollard or Rachaad White. That was my hardest decision to make. I'm putting Pollard ahead of him just because, I do think he's more explosive than White. And White's got a tough matchup too. Carolina's not the easiest matchup. And then my caboose this week is Najee Harris, just because it's just I just can't trust Najee pretty much anywhere. It's so tough with Jalen Warren there creeping in.
My rankings are almost solar opposites of what you got here. Yeah, I got Tony Pollard at number one right now, still getting the bulk of the workload. He's proved himself over the past couple of weeks that he's able to step up with a couple of impressive runs. And Seattle's given up the most points over the last 8 weeks to the running back position. I got Rachaad White at number two. Carolina's given up the second most points over the last 8 weeks. And Rachaad White, actually, over the last 5 weeks, is the number one running back over the last 5 weeks. I was surprised to see that, but I saw that pop up. Then this is mostly matchup based. Najee's still splitting a lot with Jalen Warren, and they actually saw Jalen Warren more heavily utilized last week with the new offensive coordinator there. But Arizona, third most points to running backs over the last 8 weeks. You're going to hear me bringing up the last 8 weeks a lot. We got to scrap the season long just because things change in the NFL. So 8 weeks still a great sample size, but a little bit more likely to reflect how the defenses are performing now. You're seeing Chicago Bears turn it around, the Vikings turn it around, the Broncos turn it around. So a lot of these early blowouts are a thing of the past. And then to round it up, I got Pacheco. Green Bay still an easy matchup. Tyron just because of that workload. And then Ramondre Stevenson as my number 6.
Yeah, mine
can't believe you got Kyron in the back half. Cannot believe it.
Mine lines up exactly with yours, Dan. I think I'm scared of Kyron just because of that Cleveland defense. And Ramondre, man, they may be the worst offense in the league. Zappy, Malik Cunningham was taking snaps at quarterback at practice today. They may not score more than a touchdown against your putrid Chargers defense.
I don't know. Ramondre is going to be that offense, I think, this week.
I honestly pretty much agree with Kyron in the back half too, just because that Cleveland defense is mean. And I think, honestly, Rams are going to get completely shut down this game. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game to watch for any Rams fans. I think it's going to just be a low-scoring game all year long. The whole game around, all year long, we've seen Cleveland win low-scoring games in a lot of their wins. I could see that coming again from this week, just being like a 14-10 sort of game. So I don't see a ton of value really in Kyren Williams. And then, like Ramondre, Patriots are just bad. It's hard. I'm not being mad starting Ramondre in leagues, but just Patriots are. Right. They got to figure something out for me to really trust anyone. And I do got to agree with Evan. Rachaad White. He's been wide receiver or running back one of the past 5 weeks. You said, I believe, but that Carolina defense, they're pretty good against the run, not as good against the pass. So.
They're one of the worst run defenses.
The numbers are a little flipped around there. Yeah, they're terrible against the run.
I actually thought that when I was looking at, I don't know. We may have to do fact check. Producers, fact check. But
okay, never mind. My point is wrong. I thought Carolina. I think I got it flipped around then. So.
I think I might have too, but I don't know. They just seem like a tough defense all around, to be honest. Mainly because they don't have to put up big points to beat them.
Yeah, I think you guys are holding on to some thoughts from last year because they had a decent run defense the last 2 years. But right now, in the course of the season, they are allowing 26 half PPR points to the running back position per game. And that's 30th in the league. And then over the last 8 games here, they are second worst against the running back position. So giving up a lot of points there. The only reason why I have Rachaad White below Tony Pollard is because I believe in Pollard's talent more than White. And I think that the Cowboys are going to score a ton of points and then run the ball all day long. So
I know people forgot who Kyron was. I know people forgot who Kyron was while he was out, but I cannot believe that last week did not remind you guys who he was. So we'll see. We'll see how it comes.
I mean, they're really all skip on him.
Let's make a bet here. Let's make a bet. I mean, I'm obviously a Cleveland Browns fan, so, I might be a little bit biased here, but he went up against Arizona last week, who is terrible defensively, where Cleveland is a top 3 run defense and a top 2 defense overall, basically just behind the Ravens in most statistical categories. So,
how did you do against San Fran early in the season?
Kyron?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you already have it pulled up, so why don't you just tell us?
28 points against San Fran, another tough defense. So I don't want to hear it, boys.
That was literally week 2.
Week 2, he got 10 targets. I mean, I don't understand how that makes a difference, but.
Do you think that the Rams are going to be trailing to the point where they need to target their running back 10 times in catch-up mode?
I think that they're going to use him exactly like he's just going to be a volume guy. He's going to get a ton of volume. I think they're going to be checking down a lot because they're just going to have Myles Garrett in his face. He's going to catch passes too. Yes, I do believe that he's going to catch passes.
How many points do you think he scores? Well, it's full PPR.
Full PPR, at least 15.
I think 15's in the range of outcomes, but you're talking like he's going to have another giant game like he did last week. You sure just 15?
Do you think he's going to get more than Rachaad White? Okay, well, why don't we just do Rachaad White versus Kyron?
I like that. Let's do that. Lock it in.
Fair.
All right. So we got Evan up first. I know how this goes. I'm going to end up spinning a second time and getting Kyron Williams. Najee Harris, your bottom-ranked running back. Are you going to use your second of 2 passes?
I am going to be passless, yes, after this round. So I'm passing again.
Passless. All right. I am up next. Give me Tony. Give me Tony Pollard. All right. I'll take it. My number 2 running back right now. Very happy with this pick. I get Rachaad White going up against Carolina. Let's see who Mason gets. Isaiah Pacheco, another solid matchup here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take Pacheco. I think he's very middle of the pack here. And, there's 2 guys on there that I would want less than Pacheco. So,
not worth the skip. Not worth the skip there. Smart move.
Anybody with Ramondre?
Oh, boy. League gets Tony Pollard against Seattle.
Yes, sir.
Imagining he's locking that one in. All right, let's see who Evan is stuck with.
Come on,
it'll
give
be
me
funny. I hope it's Kyron.
No. All right, I'll take Stevenson. Please be Stevenson. Please be Stevenson. No, are you kidding me, Wheel? Are you kidding me, Wheel? 2 skips back to back and both same players. Oh my God. What did I do to you, Wheel? What did I do to you?
Man. I would also have taken
definitely
Najee.
Outperform Stevenson this week. I would take that bet.
Oh,
100%. They're both in the shared backfield, but Najee gets the Cardinals. It's just that defense is giving up everything right now. All
the
right.
goal line work.
Yes. Yeah. That is the thing too. Like, dude's 245 pounds. He's gonna blow through anybody on that goal line if given the slightest hole. All right. So this was I thought the hardest position to rank this week. I got the wide receivers here. Guys on the list, we got Christian Kirk against Cincinnati, Terry McLaurin against Miami, Marquise Brown against Pittsburgh, Christian Watson against KC, Cooper Kupp against Cleveland, and Cortland Sutton against Houston. Right now, all of these teams are ranked pretty middle. The defenses they're going up against are pretty middle of the pack. So there's not a lot of sway based on the matchups here. But I got Christian Kirk right now as the number one guy on this list. We got Cortland Sutton number two because of that touchdown upside. He just keeps on scoring. And Jerry Jeudy hasn't done anything this year. Probably my biggest miss. Even though I still was only taking him in like the 7th round of redraft leagues, he just done nothing to prove himself, nothing to earn that second contract. Third, I have Marquise Brown. That's just because they don't got anybody else to throw the ball to there other than Trey McBride. I got Cooper Kupp going up against Cleveland. Just got to believe that he bounces back eventually. Terry McLaurin, before Jalen Ramsey came back, probably would have been a little bit higher up on this list. But no matter where they line him up, he's going up against either Howard or Ramsey. So don't love that matchup for him. And then I got Christian Watson at number 6. It's just too inconsistent. He had a big week last week, but Detroit is a good team to throw the ball on, and KC is not. He's likely going to get Jerry Sneed, so don't love that matchup for him. Sneed has been blocking down most of the guys he goes up against. All right. Any disagreements here?
I mean, I'm pretty similar there, especially with Watson at the bottom. Just look at what Ladarius Sneed did to A.J. Brown. Shut him down to one catch, 8 yards. Even had A.J. Brown super frustrated. I mean, I just don't trust Christian Watson, who's already been inconsistent against a guy that's been able to lock down some top-notch wide receivers.
100%. Sneed is legit.
Yeah, I was lower on Marquise. I don't think he's going to have as good of a week. I think would you have him 3rd or 4th?
I had him 3rd.
Yeah, he's my 5th right now. That's pretty much the only big difference there.
I mean, for me, looking at it, it's kind of like one of these is not like the others. Cooper Kupp,
right,
head and shoulders better, just as a football player than the other 5 guys. It's a scary matchup in the injury, so I get some of the hesitation. But I mean, he's so many tiers above these other guys that I think I would still take. I mean, I think he's going to have a bounce back week. And, yeah, I would agree. Watson, the inconsistency, he would be at the bottom for me.
Yeah, and that's why I threw Cooper Kupp in this. It was like an interesting name to add. But excluding week 11 where he got 27% snap share with that injury, he's got 3.3 points, 5.8, 4.1, and 5.9 over the other 4 weeks, the past 4 weeks here. He could absolutely bounce back, but he's got Cleveland this week, Baltimore next week. Sadly enough, if I have better options, I will be starting Cooper Kupp. All right, let's get into it, though. I'm going to be first up here. Got Christian Kirk. He's my number 1, and I got Trevor Lawrence. So I got a little mini stack here. We'll kick it over to Mason.
Oh, God. Oh, man. I mean, I don't really like Brown a ton this week, but I'm so scared of getting stuck with Christian Watson. But you know what? I'll respin. I think there's a couple other guys.
Risk that biscuit. All right, Lee, you only have 1 skip, so you got another available to you. And I'm guessing you're going to be using it.
Yeah, I mean, I could roll the dice and take the Love Watson stack, but I want no parts of the Packers offense this week. So, yeah, I'm going to respin.
All right. Evan, last up here.
Oh, my God. Not happy with it.
We're top.
You know what? Doesn't even surprise me.
That's
this
crazy.
week. This week, the wheel's just out to get me.
Oh yeah, that's right. You have no no skips left.
No skips. No skips.
No skips left.
Oh, please stop. All right. Well, I guess I should. My skip didn't matter. Stuck with Marquise Brown. I said please stop because I almost got stuck with Watson. I'll pick Brown for sure over Christian Watson. I mean, he is the only person to throw to. But that Pittsburgh matchup's mean. That whole team's got a new purpose after last week. So Pittsburgh already was oddly scary. Now they're not oddly scary. Maybe.
Yeah.
Just not Watson. Come on.
Tighten up a little bit, but all right, you got your boy. Terry McLaurin going up against Miami. He's tricky, man. He could have 20 points. He could have 5 points, So passing matchup, though, expecting him to do well. As a Terry McLaurin manager, though, never works out for me. All right. Yeah. All right, Mason, you're up for the tight end rankings.
All right, so for tight end rankings this week, at number 1, I got Evan Ingram going up against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's ranked 29th against the tight end, so good matchup for him. Then we got Schultz at number 2 against Denver. Denver's 32nd for against the tight end, so an excellent matchup for them there. We got Kittle against Philly, Laporta at New Orleans, Pat Freiermuth at Arizona, and then for the last one, Ferguson versus Seattle. Do you guys have any disagreements with that? I mean, some of these names are pretty big. Laporta's obviously been doing pretty good this season, but just had him a little lower with that Saints matchup. Saints pretty middle of the pack, give up the 16th most to tight ends this season, so that's why I got him that low. The other two guys, their matchups just don't give up a ton of points to the tight ends as well.
We had the same last three. We had the same final three, but Laporta was number 1 for me. I still got faith in my boy Laporta.
I also do. I got Laporta number 1. Saints have given up the 3rd most to tight ends over the last 8 weeks. Then I got Schultz. Denver's given up 1st most over the last 8 weeks. And Kittle, Ingram, Jake Ferguson, and Pat Freiermuth, thinking that they're going to spread the ball around a little bit more than they did last week. Get Pickens a little bit more involved.
No love for the Muth after a career game last week. We got a new offensive coordinator, Kenny Pickett. He's got to get rid of the ball quickly. Arizona's pretty bad against the tight ends, aren't they? I think I'd have the Muth a bit higher. And I like Laporta higher than what Evan did as well.
Over the last 8 weeks, they're the 12th toughest matchup against tight ends. It's going to be an easy matchup. I do love that the new coordinator is starting to utilize them more. I didn't understand why Matt Canada didn't design anything his way, but just not enough consistency yet for me to put him above the other guys. All right, so Mason is up first.
Is it frozen?
Yeah. It was frozen.
I thought
something was going on. All right, well, it's frozen a little bit, but I got Pat Freiermuth, and I'm going to skip him. He's one of my bottom tight ends. So, I
thought that you were out of skips.
No, I only used one. Way to go! First, you
Pat Freiermuth's back on the board.
Racing.
Freiermuth's back on the board. Lee is up next.
Give me Laporta.
Can't be mad at that though.
Talk about streaky. Maybe it'll be a boom week.
Right? Yeah, can't be too mad about George Kittle there. Going to be a shootout, I imagine. All right, Evan's up next.
I'm going to get Ferguson. I already know it. I'm already getting Ferguson. Just give it to me. All right. Oh my god.
The Muse.
My second worst. Yeah. All right. You know what, Wheel? I don't want to talk to you anymore today.
I am up next. I still have my steal left.
You want to steal any of my players?
Here. Nah, I'm good. Ferguson is ranked 5th for me, so I am going to skip him. Got another spin and a potential steal yet to use, so let's see how it goes. Mason is
you'll probably steal
with Evan Ingram,
but yeah,
I mean, I do have him at number 4, but Kittle's off the board.
Jake Ferguson again.
Jake Ferguson again.
You got your steal, dude.
I'm gonna go. I know I'm gonna go tactical here. I'm gonna take George Kittle. I'm gonna give Lee Jake Ferguson, which gives him both Pollard and Ferguson. And I think that Kittle can have one of the blow up weeks.
He can skip again. He can spin again here, right or no?
Yes.
True. Now you can spin again if you want to. Would you rather spin again or take
Ferguson?
Who was it? Jake Ferguson.
Does Fergie go back on the wheel, or is it just between these two if I spin
Just
again?
between these two.
Just between these two.
I'll take the 50-50 shot at Laporta.
Yeah, or Schultz.
I think that's a good move.
Options,
Yeah, Schultz going up against the worst defense against tight ends, and he's got Laporta.
I think that's the friendliest
solid
steal.
move.
That's the friendliest steal we're ever going to see.
100%. If I could steal again, I would. Give me Laporta. All right. So we got our final teams here. We're a little tight on time for where we're at. So we're just going to get into these playoff matchups, get into the bulk of it. All right. So the way we're breaking this up right now, we have any player with a good matchup. Just give you some names that we think at each position with a good playoff matchup. Any player that has a bad playoff schedule. And then we're each going to name 2 or 3 players that are under 50% rostered that have a good playoff schedule. That way, you guys can go out and try to get a couple of these guys, at least as some fill-ins. Maybe you guys got some tough matchups, one of these players that we're going to mention with a bad playoff schedule, and you want to take the shot at replacing them with one of these guys that are probably in the free agency. All right. So to kick it off, I'll kick it off here. We got the QBs to start. I got Brock Purdy. He has a great schedule. He goes up against Arizona in week 15. He does go up against Baltimore in week 16, but he's got Washington in week 17. So if you can find a filler for that week 16 matchup, Arizona and Washington in 15 and 17 is beautiful. Over the last 3 games, Purdy has 23.84 points, 26.7 points, and 11.46 points. Last week was a little bit tough. They blew him out early. That is my only worry, is that if 49ers are just blowing the team out of the water like they have been in past weeks, they might just lean on the run game in post to victory. But recently, it was about 2 weeks ago, I made a trade that had Brock Purdy as my second quarterback. This was the first time I ever drafted Pat Mahomes. And of course, he's having his worst statistical season. I think he's right now QB 8 right now. I'll fact check that, but not having his best season. So I traded away Mahomes, Kenneth Walker for Stephon Diggs and Ramondre Stevenson because I feel so confident in Brock Purdy in that rest of the season schedule. I think he's going to ball out the rest of the season. So happy with that move. Kenneth Walker also went down. Diggs, obvious upgrade over London. And Ramondre Stevenson has been a top 12 running back for the last 5 weeks. So pretty happy with that move. But how do you guys feel about Brock Purdy rest of the season?
I agree. He's going to ball up the rest of the season. You don't even need to argue it. He's good to go. Brock Purdy.
I'm shocked that Mason agrees.
I like it.
I will say for your championship matchup, Washington, obviously we all know, I know probably a little more intimately than others. It's been a sad go. I saw a stat this week. We've played 12 games. In 10 of them, they've given up a QB1 performance. Not 1 overall, but top 12, QB1. The next closest team I want to say was 8. So, you're guaranteed a top 12 performance and very likely a top 5 performance. That's a slam dunk if you make it to the championship.
Yeah, that's huge. And then really quick, I got a second player for y'all. I'll just coast through this, though. Kyler Murray, 9th easiest playoff schedule. He's got San Fran, tough start, but then Chicago and Philly, 22nd and 34st against QBs. Adding some rushing upside. He's got at least 1 rushing touchdown in all 3 games, 38 pass attempts in all 3 games. averaging 240 passing yards and 28.6 rushing yards. Guy's solid, and another great player. Highly doubt that he is going to be out there for anybody to pick up at this point, but if you got him, I'd be confident starting him in those games. All right. Let's move on, though. We got Lee kicking it off with the running back. Any player with a good playoff matchup?
Yeah, so my number one that I really pinpointed would be DeAndre Swift. He's been fairly consistent, but there's been some big games and then some just kind of mediocre 10, 12 points. Won't lose you the week, but doesn't win you a week either. But when you look over those 3 weeks, he's the only running back that has a top 10 matchup in all 3 of your playoff weeks. You start off with, and 2 of those are top 5. You get Arizona as your championship game. Their run defense has just been awful. You got the Giants in your potential semifinal game. They've been better, but still, they're the 9th best matchup for a running back season long. And then just to start your playoffs, you got Seattle, who is the 4th best matchup. So the 4th best matchup season long in your opening playoff game, and then the 2nd best matchup against the Cardinals. I'm smashing DeAndre. If you can get him in your lineup, the bad thing with him is you've got to survive these last 2 weeks. You got to be kind of ready for the playoffs because you got San Francisco and Dallas leading in. But if you can hold out, he's definitely going to deliver some championships in those last 3 weeks. The other running back that I kind of pinpointed would be Bijan Robinson. It's been an up and down year for him. Last week, we saw his breakout game potentially. He does have a fairly tough matchup, or not tough matchup, but tougher in your championship game with the Bears. But you get Carolina and Indy, both top 10 matchups for running backs in your opening round and your semifinals. And to be sure, even though he's gotten a seal of approval already, to be sure, Arthur Smith has got to placate his fan base. They still have a good shot at the playoffs. You have to get the ball to your best player, a guy who you used the 8th overall pick. We've been saying it all year. It's finally coming to fruition. I look for Bijan to finish strong as well.
Really quick on the Colts and Panthers matchups. They are top 5 matchups over the last 8 weeks. Great looks there. And then DeAndre Swift against Seattle, worst against the running back right now. They're giving up so many points. 25.4 half PPR points for DeAndre Swift in that Seattle matchup. It's going to be a game to definitely watch out for. Looking forward to that as Swift and Bijan manager in the same league. So looking forward to that. Anything else to add, boys?
No, I mean, I think it was pretty spot on. I think, like you said, with Swift, he is going to have a rough 2 weeks. But, if you're already looking like you're a guaranteed playoff spot or secured, bye for the first week of playoffs, if you do buy, I think Swift, like you said, is going to be a big part of helping you in championship runs.
Hey, appreciate the comment, JC. You know where to get all your fantasy football needs here. You keep it coming every week. All right, and then let's kick it to Mason. You got some wide receiver matchups. They got. I won't spoil it. I was going to spoil it. Go ahead, take it away.
All right, so the first one I got for you guys for wide receivers with a good matchup, playoff matchup, is Cortland Sutton. The first week of playoffs, he's going up against Detroit, which right now gives up the 9th most to the wide receivers. We got New England, which gives up the 10th most to wide receivers. Then the LA Chargers in championship week, which they give up the 4th most to wide receivers in fantasy. Those are 3 pretty solid matchups, most of them except New England just barely out of it. And I mean, Detroit just barely out of it, but, pretty much in the bottom or, the better quarter of defenses you want to be playing against as a wide receiver. And honestly, this Denver offense has been just Denver in general has been looking a lot better, I don't think towards the end of the season are they going to be in a spot where they're going to be, too out of it or, too far ahead where they're going to be a very competitive team still competing for that playoff spot. So a lot of high intensity games for them. And just with that and some good matchups, I think Sutton is going to be a great play for your championship runs or your playoff runs, in fantasy this year.
Second best matchup for a wide receiver during that playoff run there. definitely looking forward to some more Sutton touchdowns.
Jerry Judy's on a milk carton. I mean, Sutton gets all the love.
Hey, do you guys think that he's gonna get like a decent contract next year? So, like we've seen crazier things. We've seen Nelson Aguilar get 11 mil from the Patriots, but like I at this point I don't see him getting much more than that 11 to 12 million range.
I think he signs a 1-year prove-it deal.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I like that.
Could see that. But then for my second wide receiver, I got Devonta Smith, who's actually been, producing a little more. Started the season off a little slower. It's been coming more to fruition. The first week of playoffs doesn't have the best matchups going up against Seattle. Seattle's pretty middle of the pack against the pass. And then we got the Giants in the second week of playoffs. Great matchup. They're pretty bottom of the pack as far as they do give up one of the most points to wide receivers. They've got Arizona, which we all know that defense struggles on the run and the pass. I believe they give up the sixth most. I might be wrong about that. Sixth or seventh most to wide receivers, if I'm not mistaken. Just a good matchup. Don't think, like I said, same with the Denver situation. If Eagles lose this game against the Niners, it's still going to be coming down to who's going to be getting that 1 seed in the NFC probably. So same thing. I think Philly's going to be fighting till the end of this season. So I think Devonta, he's been a little questionable going on. Starting to pick it up. I think he's going to be great in the playoffs for you.
Or is about to get arrested or he's taken away on a gurney right now.
We here in Seattle, dude. You know it.
We're here in Seattle.
Just a comment on the Devontae. I mean, I definitely like the schedule, but he's one of those guys that it's going to give you a lot of heartburn. It's going to be a scary proposition just because Dallas Goedert's probably coming back. His splits are much better without Goddard on the field. And then you're playing such weak run defenses, teams that aren't very good. Philly could be up a lot and running the ball a lot. And then the streaky nature. So, I mean, he could win you a championship. He could lose you a championship. It's one of those risky plays that it may very well be worth it, or you may be, cursing his name at the end of the matchup.
Right. No, that's definitely fair. They're saying that Goddard even has a chance to play this week. Pretty crazy coming back from a broken arm, but
Aaron Rodgers is practicing and off of the Achilles, so I mean, anything can happen nowadays.
These injuries just aren't lasting as long unless your name's T. Higgins, right?
I'll take a bet that Aaron Rodgers does not play this year. If anybody wants to take him to play. It makes no sense.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, they're 4-7 right now. There's no reason for him to get out there any earlier than he needs to. I think he uses the full 21 practice day window, and ultimately after those 21 days decides not to come back.
Agreed.
It's bird hunting week, JC. I hope you know that. It's bird hunting week.
Mm-hmm.
And Misty said, police coming to take Mason away after talking trash about the Eagles earlier. Love that. Love some friendly competition here. I think you guys got to make some type of side bet here on this game, but that's for another podcast. All right, Evan, kick it off for the players with a good matchup at the tight end position.
Tight end position is always tough to just kind of pick through because I feel like it's just it's tough to pick these guys. But David Njoku's the guy I went with. He actually led Cleveland in receiving last week, and he's quietly averaging 11 targets per game over the last 3 weeks. And now he's facing, Chicago, Houston, and his only tough matchup, though, I would not trust him in the finals, is with against the Jets in Week 17. And but he's got the 5th best strength of the schedule, so really can't complain there at all. I would be happy with Njoku going forward here. And then
and Cooper's out too, so he's probably just going to get fed.
Yeah,
I mean that might just be this week, but I agree with you there.
Yeah,
I mean, I think I need to see a little bit more before I'd be trusting him too, definitely, just because the QB situation is super rocky.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows, but
I mean, from a volume perspective, though, you can't deny the volume the past 3 weeks, and I think that's going to continue.
I think if Joe Flacco is the guy, I think Joe Flacco's he very well could be Joe Flacco's go-to guy, and it certainly seems like it's Flacco over PJ. If
It does.
PPR
It
is
should
out.
be. It should be for sure. Mason, I want you to be announcer. uh, and Cleveland's tight ends position is super awky this week.
Yeah.
All right,
Then,
but yeah, Njoku, 9 targets, 8 targets, 6 targets, 9 targets, 15 targets, and 9 targets over the last 6 weeks. I think it's pretty reliable at this point.
for sure. And another guy who isn't as reliable. I'm trying to go not pick the standout guys. Trying to pick some guys that you wouldn't have to trade too much to get. Chigo Okonkwo. He's and not that you probably could trade him. He might even be available, but I don't know. People's trade deadlines probably already passed by now.
Trade deadlines are over.
Yeah, he had a good game last week in a tough matchup against Carolina, putting up 8.5. He's got Houston, Seattle, which is really the only toughish matchup, and then Houston again. So those are great schedule for fantasy playoffs, and I'd be willing to give him a shot, especially if for me if Waller continues to sit or anybody else that has something along those lines that they need somebody to fill in. So Chig's not bad.
He's an athletic freak, disappointing year, but I do like him as a player, hoping that he is used more downfield like he was last game. Will Levis has a good deep ball as far as rookie quarterbacks and deep balls go. So I would like to see more of him, but probably not looking to add him anywhere. I'm surprised that wasn't your under 50% rostered guy.
Oh, there's some deeper sleepers. I want some waiver wire guys that somebody can actually grab off the waiver wire. You probably can't grab Chig off the waiver
You're
wire.
wild, bro.
He's available in a lot of my leagues.
I don't know.
Chig is available. He's 24% rostered.
Yeah.
He's
24% rostered in
fringe 50.
fantasy.
Fringe 50.
It's under half of 50. What are you talking about?
And one of mine, I thought he was 47, so I didn't want to be too, yeah.
All right. We'll speed round these next two here. I got Tua Tagovailoa and Sam Howell as these bad playoff matchups for the QBs here. Tua's got all bottom half matchups from week 14 on, and in the playoffs got the Jets, Dallas, and Baltimore. All incredibly tough matchups. It's also showed over the past few weeks that in tough matchups, he hasn't been really proven himself. In 4-point per passing touchdown leagues, 8.8 points, 17.6 against the Raiders, which is in the bottom half. And then Kansas City, 11.4. He always has a chance to blow up with the scheme he's in and the players on that roster. But right now, he's not proven it for me. And with an incredibly tough matchup, I'm looking to steer away from him during the playoffs. And then Sam Howell also has a very difficult schedule upcoming. He has been balling out. They just throw the ball over and over again. So it's hard to steer away from him. But he's got the Rams in week 15, the Jets in week 16, and San Francisco in week 17. Right now, with the schedule adjusted for the players the teams that they're going up against, that is 31st most difficult. Jets are the most difficult. San Fran 7th. Also looking to steer away from Sam Howell if possible during those last 2 weeks of your fantasy playoffs. For now, I'm going to skip the rebuttals and everything so we can all get to our players. Lee, kick it off for the running backs.
Yeah, so the one that jumped out was Tony Pollard. He's been inconsistent all year. He's had 2 of his best games since the first 2 weeks, the last 2. But your championship game, he's playing against Detroit. That is a matchup that could certainly lose you a championship. He does have Buffalo in the opening week of the playoffs. Buffalo has been susceptible, and maybe it's just my feeling watching them. It seems like their run defense has been a bit better the last couple of weeks. But then you also have Miami in your semifinal game, which has been a pretty stout run defense all year. So Tony Pollard, the lack of inconsistency, and really that Detroit matchup, I am looking for other options. If I'm in the playoffs, if you have him, you're probably forced to start him. If you have that luxury where you have better options or people you can start, I would certainly look that way after your opening round. And then the other one that really scares me, and this is a little bit cheating, but I went the Miami backfield, Mostert, Achane, even Jeff Wilson. You look at those matchups, and it's tough. They do have the Jets as your opening. They have been susceptible, but again, those last two, Dallas in your semifinal game, and then the championship game is Baltimore. I'm staying away from those guys if at all possible. I do not want to be playing that Ravens defense for a championship.
Absolutely. All right, Mason, your wide receivers with bad matchups.
All right, so the first one I'm going to be going to Amari Cooper. The first week of playoffs, he actually does have a good matchup going up against Chicago. Chicago, one of the bottom defenses against the pass this season. But after that, it does get a little tough. He goes against Houston, which, Houston's actually been a surprising defense. And even every week that Houston defense has been improving. I've been able, if you watch their games, you've been able to notice it. So who knows how they're going to be by the time that goes. By the time that matchup comes, and Houston's already been tough against wide receivers this year. And then in your championship game, you're going up against the Jets, which Jets have given up the second least amount of points to wide receivers this season. And Amari Cooper not having the greatest season. We have a lot of quarterback unquestionably. Flacco could be coming in. We don't know how he will be, how that scheme will fit. Maybe he does like Cooper. So maybe, you do more lean on him a little bit if Flacco does, but that's still yet something to see. Just the matchups aren't the best really for Cooper there, especially in your championship game. And then the next one I got is George Pickens. Pretty against the defense he has, none of them are like the top tier defenses against wide receivers, but it's all very middle of the pack, a little above that middle line. He's playing against Indy your first week, Cincinnati the second week, Seattle your third week. Seattle is the best matchup with those, so maybe that is the better week to start him. Pickens, obviously we've seen a lot of some inconsistency from him this year. Now that Matt Canada's gone, that's something that we will also have to see. Maybe Pickens becomes this giant explosive weapon. Didn't have the best week last week. I think he did get injured in the middle of the game, a small little tweak or something. So, that does factor in. So unless Pickens really is evolving into this top-tier player under a new offensive coordinator, new play-calling system, then I might be looking at other options instead of Pickens in the playoffs.
Fair.
All right. Evan with the tight ends here.
Yeah, the bad ones. All right, so Dalton Schultz, he got a little banged up, so at least snapshot of the season, 48% last week. He's got a very tough end of season schedule. He's facing Tennessee, Cleveland, and then Tennessee again, which is the worst end of season schedule for the tight end position. So hard to trust Schultz, even though CJ Stroud is, the Lord and Savior right now. But yeah, tough. All right, and then my next guy is Dallas Goedert. He's coming off an injury. I would not trust him this next week at all, or even until we see something out of him, because that injury is not easy to recover from. As a tight end who has to block too and catch, that's really tough to do when you have elbow surgery or whatever it was with your arm. But yeah, he's facing Seattle, Giants, Arizona, all very tough defenses for the tight end. Third hardest strength of schedule going forward.
Yeah, no, that's definitely tough. Moving on to our players that are under 50% rostered, guys that you hopefully can go out and get. Some of them might be a little bit borderline, like the guy I'm going to bring up first at quarterback. Matthew Stafford was at 44% rostered when I made this. He's now at 49% after waivers have run today. But he's got Washington week 15. New Orleans, who with schedule adjusted are 14th against the quarterback position, and then the Giants. So 2 out of the 3 great matchups. New Orleans still middle of the pack. Last week, even Matthew Stafford put up 24.36 points. And that was with Kupp and Puka not really getting involved. Really expect them to start to step it up. Hopefully, Kupp continues to get more and more healthy. And there is an off chance that his Stafford's roster percentage goes down. He's got the Ravens and the Browns the next 2 weeks. So maybe he's dropped, maybe he's out there for you. The next 2 guys will definitely be out there in most of your leagues. Kenny Pickett, 21% rostered. Only reason he's on this list, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Seattle, 24th, 23rd, and 17th, even with the schedule adjusted. threw for the most yards in this season with Matt Canada being fired. Finally, Matt Canada is gone. Maybe Pickett takes the next step up. And then this last guy, I am not taking him until he proves it. Next 2 weeks, he has a bunch of prove-it opportunities. It's Will Levis, 30% rostered. He goes up against the Colts this week. This is a litmus test for me. If he does well, I would feel comfortable starting him against Houston, Seattle, and Houston again in the playoff schedule. Houston's 29th in terms of points against expectations, so that's that schedule adjusted factor there. Willing to take that risk if he can show that he can do it in this week against the Colts. All right, kicking it off to Lee for the running back playoff schedules under 50%.
Yeah, man. So it's tough. Running backs are hard to come by. So it's really tough to find a lot of value there. The two guys I went with really for similar reasons. Tajay Spears, it's not the best schedule. You've got Houston twice. They're a middle of the road, run defense. And you've got Seattle in the middle, which is a pretty good one. They're still running behind Derrick Henry. We don't know exactly what that looks like. A Tennessee team that's done. He's your young guy. Maybe you get him more run. But in those Houston games, Houston scores points. I feel like they are going to be trying to, they're going to be playing from behind, trying to come back a lot. He is the pass catching back. So if you're desperate, I could definitely see him getting a decent number of receptions as Tennessee tries to come back in those two games. And then the one I would really try to hone in on would be Samaje Perine. Again, kind of for the same reason. You look at the schedule and you do have New England in the middle. They open with Detroit, best run defense in the league, or one of the top 3 run defenses in the league. So I don't know how much run Javonte is going to be able to get, how much room he's going to be able to find. Typically, Detroit is even though they've been struggling a little bit, a higher scoring offense. So playing from behind, could definitely see him getting some more runs, some more catches out of the backfield. And then, championship week, playing your Chargers, Evan. Hey, that's still an offense that scores, and it's a really bad run defense. So he's a guy I would gamble on.
Mm-hmm.
Super quick, one guy I'm going to add in for the running backs, and this piggybacking off your DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell. Swift has been he's been on the injury report the past couple of weeks here. If he goes down, Eagles have the number 1 running back schedule for the playoffs.
Of course, we're talking about the Eagles, and the sirens come out again. Somebody's onto something.
Yeah, Mason's got to come back with a punishment for JC. JC wants him to sing the Fly Eagles Fly song if the Eagles win. We got to come up with a punishment at some point, but I don't want to take up too much time here. Mason, you got your wide receivers under 50% with a good schedule.
All right, I'll go through it real quick. So the first one, I got Rashid Shaheed. His playoff schedule is going to be against the Giants, who we already talked about, pretty weak against a wide receiver. And then we got the Rams. That might be a week that you want to sit him a little bit. Then going against Tampa, who's also given up a solid amount against wide receivers this season. And then for the second one, it's entirely dependent on if Aaron Rodgers comes back. I got Allen Lazard. Aaron Rodgers would need to throw to somebody, but if Aaron Rodgers is there, if Aaron Rodgers is not there, this is completely useless information. Avoid him at all costs. But if Rodgers is back, the familiarity with the system, they know each other. He needs somebody to throw to. So I'd go Lazard. Got a pretty relatively easy schedule, playoff schedule. Miami is the first week. Jalen Ramsey will be on Garrett Wilson, so it could open up a little bit for Lazard. And then the second week going up against Washington, gives up a lot against wide receivers. And then if Rodgers was back, he wouldn't be even playing Lazard. Championship week goes up against Cleveland, which is one of the toughest defenses.
Sneaky player there, Mason. I like it. But I got Michael Mayer to finish this off here, 17% rostered. He's facing LA Chargers, tough week 16 against Kansas City, and then the Colts. And then another guy I got for you is Gerald Everett, my boy in the Chargers. This might be a homer pick, but he's debatably the second best pass catcher on the offense and a decent red zone target. He is facing Vegas, Buffalo, which is a toughish matchup, and then Denver. So he's got the 6 easiest strengths of schedule moving forward for the playoffs too. So that's not bad.
I personally can't get behind Michael Mayer. He's only had the one boom week, and that was
He's had some
random.
decent games. Well, let him go.
Yeah,
Just like Justin.
I think we can move a Conquo down into that under 50% section there, and then it all comes together. But that is going to do it for this week of Fantasy Rant. Thank you for joining us. Go add these players and bulk up your roster for this fantasy playoff push. Hope you guys go out and have a great week 13. Take it easy, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.